Okay, menopause will happen to all women at some point, but it can still take a person by surprise, especially when the symptoms begin at a younger age than we're expecting. Here to help us navigate all the changes, we welcome women's healthcare nurse practitioner, Natalie Mohler. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this.
There's so much to talk about. We've already just been so excited before the show even began. Let's talk about perimenopause versus menopause. What are some differences and things that we should be kind of aware of?
Yes. I'll start with, so menopause, in the medical world, we define that as, 1 year of the absence of periods.
Okay.
And then perimenopause is really kind of like this transitional time leading up to that can start to happen years earlier. And it's like these kind of hormone fluctuations and people start to experience symptoms. So that's really the difference between those two terms.
Are there some common telltale signs of perimenopause that women can kind of go, oh, wait a minute, there's something's changing?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the most common things that people start to experience would be like the classic symptoms, hot flashes and night sweats. Those are the ones that I feel like affect, like 80% of people across the board.
Sure.
And then less common or less talked about ones would be difficulty with sleep, sometimes low libido, sometimes changes to tissue that can make tissue really dry or uncomfortable. Mood swings is another big one that I don't think people talk about enough, especially like anxiety or palpitations that happen too.
Well, it's interesting because I think you do hear about some of these things, but only specifically to that time of menopause. But really, it's such a long time period before you're in that sort of official medically designated zone.
Exactly.
Are there certain age ranges that you're aware of that these things can begin happening?
Yeah, I would say perimenopause average, people start to experience symptoms usually in their mid-40s, around 45, but it's an average, so I feel like sometimes it's even late 30s, early 40s. Menopause average is about 51 or 52, but again, some people it's, mid-50s, so it kind of runs the gambit, but mid-40s is typically when people start to experience some of those symptoms.
Okay. The libido changes, those can be really frustrating and really tough to navigate. What are some things that women can do to kind of take control?
I would say the first thing and probably the most difficult is just to start the conversation. Start the conversation. If you have a partner, talk to your partner about it. If you have a gynecology provider, I think it's good to start the conversation early. The earlier the better. Just because then you can start to approach, like the way that I approach it if someone were to come in to talk to me about libido is this, I call it this biopsychosocial model. So if you have this biological piece, then we usually talk about, are you experiencing pain? Are you experiencing changes to your tissue? We talk about perimenopause because those hormone changes can really start to affect libido and desire, especially like low testosterone, low estrogen. So we kind of look at that medical model, and then the psychosocial piece, I talk to people about what's changing in their life right now, because I think menopause and perimenopause kind of have a lot of this societal implications of like, you're old now, like you're losing, your reproductive years are gone. So there's a lot of those pressures that are put on people that change how they view themselves and like their sense of self.
It can be almost a sadness that overcomes people, but it's just a part of life that we're all going to deal with at some point, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, hopefully we all get to this place.
Yeah. Do you find that people are having an easier time talking about it? I'm sure, for certain patients, it's still kind of tough to even open that conversation.
Yes. I've seen in the last year or two, I think social media, and there's more like writing and blogs. So I think that the conversation is really expanding right now, and people are opening up a little bit more about their experience because it is so universal. So I think it's getting easier for people to talk about. I think some of the symptoms that are more obscure, like mood or libido, I think are still things that are hard for people to bring up. So I think normalizing, that these are things that do happen across the board really commonly is helpful.
What about things to look for if you're kind of entering this stage of life, you're noticing some changes in your body, if you need a new healthcare provider or you're seeking somebody out, are there things to kind of seek out to get the best experience?
Great question. I would say yes, look for, your gynecologist is a good place to start. I think that if you have a provider who isn't as well versed in menopause and hormone therapy, checking out the professional organizations, like you have the Menopause Society, which was the North American Menopause Society. They have a provider search where you can go online and see who in your area is certified in menopause and hormone therapy. And then any of the sexual health organizations, ISWISH, which is kind of a mouthful, but it's like the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health.
Okay.
They also have a provider directory, and I feel like anyone who has that extra specialization in sexual health is going to have a good bit of background in hormone therapy, because the two go hand in hand.
Sure.
And then I also like for people to just ask their friends if your friends are comfortable.
Yes.
And get recommendations from them too.
That's how I found some of my most favorite healthcare providers is trusted friends, because they have that one-on-one experience and you can really rely on them. Are there other common symptoms that you have tips for combating, like the night sweats, like the hot flashes? They can be so frustrating.
I really encourage everyone to talk to their healthcare provider about hormone therapy specifically. I mean, there's a lot of other things. We'll talk about lifestyle, diet, exercise, supplements, acupuncture. There's a lot of other adjunct therapies. But I like for people to have the conversation around hormone therapy, because I think it's the most helpful intervention that people can do for those really common symptoms. And most people are going to be a good candidate to start hormone therapy.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of patients come to you when they feel like they're so overwhelmed and frustrated, and they finally get to your office and they're like, wow, what a relief, somebody gets what I'm going through? Yes,
that is like one of the most common things I hear is people sit down and we just give them time and space to kind of share what they're going through.
Yeah,
exactly. And then knowing they have options, I think people are just so relieved to have a path forward through it, because it is kind of a scary and unknown time for a lot of people.
Thank you so much for being here today. This was great stuff.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time. We'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.